So lots of you savvy savers and investors out there will already know loads about your ISA accounts here in the UK, and this just stands for individual savings accounts. Basically, every UK adult has a set of accounts that you can use each year for saving money and investing with loads of great tax benefits. However, while you might know some of the basics, there are loads of little details that get missed out, and I see them come up time and time again, especially in the comment section. So that's why I've put together 5 things that you don't get told about your ISAs. Now, just before we dive in, please remember that rules can sometimes change. I've done my best to evidence all of the points, but you should seek professional help if you need it, as I'm not a professional financial advisor. Anyway, let's head over to point 1. Yes, you can take your money out of an ISA, but there are caveats to know about, and it does depend on a few different things. So first off, if we're talking about a stocks and shares ISA, most of the time, if you take your money out of your account and then a week later put more money in, this will count towards your allowance. So let's use a quick example, as this is definitely easier to explain this way. Let's say you have £5,000 in your stocks and shares ISA. You withdraw £1,000 to go and buy Pokemon cards. Wouldn't be a good decision, but I'll leave that one up to you. Anyway, a week later, you then go and top up your ISA again with another £1,000. So quick maths, out of your £20,000 allowance in one tax year, initially you'd used up £5,000, you'd taken out £1,000, leaving you with £4,000 in. But then you topped up again with that additional £1,000, bringing you back to £5,000. So you might think nothing's changed, you should have £15,000 left of allowance for your deposit. Well, actually you'd be wrong, and most providers will count that £1,000 as an additional deposit, meaning that you deposited a total of £6,000, taking your allowance down to £14,000. Now, this might not bother 90% of you because, let's be honest, saving or investing 20 grand in a year is pretty impressive. Still though, it's worth being aware of. Anyway, I did say there were some caveats, so here's how you might be able to get around it. So this applies to both cash ISAs and stocks and shares ISAs. If your investing or savings platform allows it and your account is a flexible ISA, then yes, you can take money in and out without it eating up your allowance. However, flexible stocks and shares ISAs seem to be a bit more uncommon. From a quick search, you can see that there's a bit hit or miss, and many of those newer platforms like Freetrade and Trading 212 are not offering them, and even the big old guys like Hargreaves Lansdown don't offer them as well. But then some other platforms do, like Vanguard and Barclays. However, flexible cash ISAs are a lot easier to find if you need to be able to withdraw your money easily. On a personal note, I can see why they aren't that popular though, at least on the stocks and shares side, mostly because you ideally do need to be investing for a very long time, and taking money out and selling investments is definitely not ideal. But then life isn't exactly always straightforward. And finally on this point, a lifetime ISA, that's the account that gets you a 25% top up from the government, isn't flexible. Well, technically you can take money out, but unless it's to buy your first home, you're over 60 or terminally ill, you'll lose 25% as the government want their money back. But then that's just fair enough. It's not really what that one's for. Okay, point 2, which isn't always clear, and that's the fact that yes, you can move your ISAs around to other providers. Again, it might seem obvious, but I'm sure there's lots of you out there with different accounts thinking that somehow if you move an account from one place to other, you're either going to lose some money or eat into the year's allowance, and that's just not true. Again though, let's run through an example and remember that some of these points are going to be slightly different depending on your platform or the broker that you use. So let's just say that you want to move your stocks and shares ISA from an old provider to a new one. You've got £5,000 in the old one and £15,000 in the new one. First things first, the process should be pretty straightforward, and most of the time you can do it all electronically. And for example, with a platform like InvestEngine or Trading 212, if you want to move an old ISA to them, you just fill out a form on their site. They then contact your old provider and then take care of all of that in the background for you. Most providers will let you know on their website what their policy is if you need to sell your investments into cash or if they can be transferred as they are. But the most common policy is that you need to sell your old investments to cash before they can move it. A transfer should take less than 30 days if it's a stocks and shares ISA, and a cash ISA should take less than 15 days. And that's all according to the Financial Ombudsman's own rules on their website. Now, once the transfer is completed, the money from your old ISA does not count towards your current year's allowance, as it is already protected. So in this example, you'd have £20,000 total in your account, but you would still have £5,000 left in the current year's allowance to use, because you only technically used £15,000 so far. Hopefully that all makes sense, but it's a good thing either way. If you're looking to get hold of a free stocks and shares ISA account, don't forget to check out the links in the description below for all the latest offers. I keep everything there, and there's usually some free shares or some bonus cash up for grabs. Anyway, the bottom line on this point, just check with the provider what the policy is. They're not difficult to find and it should be free and simple, and you initiate the move from the new platform. Now personally, I've done this with my pension accounts and ISAs before, and it's been a smooth process. But either way, take your time and get in touch with the provider if you do need any more help. Okay, next one, which actually was brought up recently in the comments section, and I thought it was quite a good one. So we know that our ISA accounts, and when talking about stocks and shares ISAs, that dividends are tax-free, which is one of the biggest benefits when it comes to using them. However, do dividends count as money going into the account? Because technically they're being paid in cash, right? And as a follow-up to this point, say you've got an old ISA that's getting dividends paid into it. Are you breaking any rules here because you're only allowed to contribute to one account per tax year? Thankfully, it's an easy answer to both of them though, but let me just give you one caveat to be aware of. All of your dividend income inside a stocks and shares ISA is tax-free, and any capital gains too. So that's an easy one. And that's what the current rules are, and you can see this on the government website when they talk about the rules for ISAs. But please do verify this on your own platform or with a professional. I'll just use this example from Interactive Investor's site because it's nice and clear, saying that in answer to question 2, you also have nothing to worry about. All dividends received do not count as new money into an ISA, and you can reinvest them if you want to do automatically. So don't worry, if you've got an old ISA and you're getting dividend income into the ISA, there's nothing to worry about tax-wise. However, I did promise a caveat, and this is linked to one of the points about moving money in and out. Let's just say you got your dividends paid out of your ISA into cash in your bank account. Then yes, you'd need to be careful about what you do, as you couldn't just put that back into the old account. You could put it into a new account, but remember that that would count towards your allowance, so you're kind of losing it in that way. Now, I know some platforms have a setting that automatically pays out dividends to your bank account, so just check this with whatever app or provider you're using. Again, seek professional help if you need it. These are the rules as I understand at the moment, but of course, they could always change. Okay, this next point might leave you confused at first, but do bear with me. You don't have to use your ISAs as an investor or a saver. Now, I say have to because you'll often hear some of the same advice here on YouTube and other places that you must use your ISA. But in reality, you don't have to, and a lot of people might be okay because you do have tax-free allowances in any given tax year that do cover investing and saving. But just bear with me because things are changing soon. So remember that as it currently stands, we've each got allowances from the government for our own dividend income and capital gains. So if we make money from our shares, either because they paid us some nice dividends, or we suddenly doubled our money on Tesla shares and then sold them, we might not have any tax to pay, even if we're not using a stocks and shares ISA and we're just using a regular trading account that most platforms offer. Now, at the moment, the allowances are as follows. You have £2,000 per tax year on dividends and £12,300 on capital gains, which, if we're honest, is probably going to be fine for 90% of people, as if you've got £2,000 of dividends coming in, then you've probably got a lot more invested than most people out there. However, here's where the issues come in, and you might have heard that these allowances are going to change over the next couple of years, and that's at least what the current government have said. Now, whether the next one put them forward or changes them, who knows? But because they're changing and only really getting lower, I would have to say that using ISAs is going to be more important than ever before. Now, personally, I've grown my investments quite a lot outside of ISAs because I wasn't really too worried and I thought I'll just get them moved on eventually, no rush. But because of these changes, I'm going to be having to make some big efforts this year before the end of March and into the new tax year to sort my own finances out. So keep an eye on that one. Anyway, I did just want to make the point that if you did ever want to get started investing or saving and just wanted to play around with like a small amount of cash on an investing app and then just get used to things, and that's fine. At the end of the day, personal finance is personal and I don't know your situation and we're all different. Just so long as you're aware of everything, that's the main thing. But for most of us, let's just use those ISAs as much as possible. Now, just before we move on to the final point, if you are enjoying the video and you've made it this far, please do leave me a like and subscribe too. It's completely free. It really helps out small UK channels like mine. Now with that done, thanks as always, and here's our final point. So the £20,000 is just a limit for what you can put in any given tax year. And what happens after that is completely tax-free, and it can grow or even lose money, especially if we're talking investing into the stock market. Now, I did see a comment the other day saying something like, if I get dividends or gains and they make my account go over £20,000 in total, what's going to be happening there? But just remember that those are not counted towards the money going in. So just for some perspective, there are a few ISA millionaires out there in the UK who've got more than £1 million in their ISA accounts. And they didn't just get that from putting the money in, as ISAs haven't even been around for that long. So they've made some big gains from either the investments that they bought with the dividends, or they've just seen the appreciation of those stocks too. And I can imagine there's probably a few people out there sat on some massive gains from the likes of Tesla, but they've probably also seen the roller coaster ride down too. Anyway, I do hope they've diversified a little bit. Hopefully you get the point anyway, that the amount of money contributed is actually the only money that really counts. Anything else included is all yours to grow as much as possible. Also, the limit of 20,000 is spread across all of your ISAs, not per each one. If you want some cash, some in stocks and shares, and some in a lifetime ISA, then that's fine, but you've got to keep it all under £20,000 per tax year in total. Again, I realise that most people won't even get anywhere near that, so just don't worry, it's a bit of a first world problem kind of thing, but always worth knowing about and keeping up to date with any changes on the government website and with your investing platforms too. So there's your 5 things. I hope you learned something new. And if you're new to investing and then looking for a bit of help to learn a bit more about your ISAs and investing generally, then I've made an entire Investing for Beginners video, brand new for 2023, which I'll put up on screen now. Otherwise, enjoy this next video coming up on screen now, and I'll see you in the next one. And as always, happy investing.